2025 BMW X5 versus 2025 Mercedes GLE. Which one do I buy and why? In my opinion, both the GLE and the X5 are some of the most beautiful models of each company. So BMW X5, I think it's a great looking SUV in a time where we see so much craziness when it comes to the design exterior specifically, both the Mercedes lineup and BMW. And then you have the GLE, which looks like a proper tank to me, specifically with the stands from the rear. You're going to have a look at that in a minute. But before we jump into Photoshop and have a look at these designs from front, side, and rear, and also the interior, let's have a look at the spec and tech and the pricing for this. So the entry-level X5 now comes standard with a 3-liter inline 6 under the hood, putting out 375 horsepower, connected to an 8-speed automatic. And I made a review on this, in-person review, and I was blown away by the performance of this X5. It's a pretty fast SUV, even the base model. Then you have the plug-in hybrid, same 6-cylinder with the electric motor, raising the ponies to 483. You also, of course, have the M60i with the V8 and 523 horsepower. All-wheel drive is optional. And then on top of the line, you have the X5M, 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8 hybrid system, 617 horsepower. On the inside, you have a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster and a 14.9-inch touchscreen. Pricing starts for the base X5, $66,875. I would personally go with the M Sport package, maybe even the M Sport Professional package, which adds a lot more black exterior trim, which I think looks so much better than the chrome trim. You also get a unique front bumper, and also the rear bumper is different. Look a lot more sporty, and overall just raises the level of design, in my opinion, for the X5. You also have an option for the M Sport exhaust system. Now looking at the GLE here, so the base GLE 350 comes with 255 horsepower from a turbo 4-cylinder 2-liter engine. So you have the base of the X5 being an inline 6 with 375 horsepower, and the base of the GLE is a inline 4 turbo with 255 horsepower. So you lose a lot of power for the base model of the GLE. You can spec it, of course, all the way up to the 4-liter twin-turbo V8 GLE 63S with 603 horsepower, which is still a little bit less than the 617 you get in the X5M. The base starting price is $63,800. So if you're going for the base here, you have almost $67,000 for the X5, and the base is $64,000 for the GLE, but you get a lot less power, 120 horsepower less. And on the inside here for the GLE, you do have dual 12.3-inch gauge clusters and infotainment screen. Both have these screens, but I do think the GLE has a little bit better implementation for the screens. So with that said, let's jump in and have a look at these designs here, and I'm gonna let you know which one, if I were in the market for one of these today, which one would I personally buy. It's a pretty difficult choice, if I'm honest, because as I said, I love both these designs. The Mercedes it has almost like a militaristic style to it. Love the front end, these muscles that we have going on the hood here, and these inverted grille that now frown. So these lines are going downwards from a narrow point up top to a more wider point at the bottom, creating this more industrial look for the GLE, but it's still a very cool looking design. You have the new headlights here for 2024, with the new daytime run lights being these 4 dots, and then you have a full LED bar up top. Looking beautiful, the headlight as well. I think it's nothing crazy going on here. It's still a tight looking design with the graphics positioned exactly where you expect them to be. I would personally want to have the Panamericana grille here, the AMG grille with these slots like this, but this still looks pretty good. It looks like the old school Mercedes is from back in the day, when you have these almost aviation inspired graphics in the grille. Small little stars all over the grille here as well, typical Mercedes these days. And also this lower section, it feels like Mercedes take the lower section and just copy paste it and slap it onto every single model that they have, because they all look pretty much the same. But it's not a bad thing, it still looks very, very good. Now, this X5 down here does not have the M Sport package, and without it, you get this solid silver bar here that cuts kind of weirdly into the front end, and this is the reason why I would personally go for the M Sport package, to have more of a black features and the graphics in the front end, but the top half looks absolutely fantastic. I love these lines that we have in the hood. We have new headlights here as well with a more static looking daytime run lights. Definitely more static than what we have in the Mercedes up top here. We have a functional air vent here on the side, and the grills, I don't feel the grills are too big. I feel like the grill here actually suits, the size of the grill suits the overall front end of the X5. It looks very clean. We have a classic frame for the grille itself and the internal pieces with all these bars here looking very BMW-ish, with the kidneys almost in line with the headlights here. Maybe want to have the headlights sit a little higher, more of a stately look for the front end of the Beamer. The only thing I don't like is this section here with this silver bar, but that's BMW design these days. They just need to slap in static graphic features all over the place, even though the top half looks very automotive and very organic and dynamic as well. Now looking at the side view here, I think this is probably my favorite view for maybe not the GLE, but definitely for the BMW X5. I love the proportions of this car. Looking at the Mercedes here, you can see that the Mercedes is definitely the more round design. We have a very tight shoulder line here, cutting right through from the top of the headlights through here into the top of the taillights. Greenhouse has this almost bubbly feel to it, but at the same time, I feel like it feels like a unit, this design. It's such a cool looking design, and I do not look forward to Mercedes replacing this with whatever comes next, because I know it's not going to be as cool as this design right here. And it all comes down to the plantedness from a rear view, which we're going to look at in a minute. Love the wheel design here as well. Very simple design with multi-spoke designs like this. Nothing crazy going on with the wheels, and I like this elegant feel that we have for Mercedes when it comes to the wheel design. It just suits Mercedes overall. Personally, I would want to, experiment and explore if I can get to this GLE with blacked out trim going around the windows here, for example. That's pretty much all the chrome that we have in the side, and these roof rails up top, I want to have them be black as well, just to make it a little bit more sporty. Now looking at the X5 down here, clearly the more chiseled and static looking design, but it's still a very, very good looking car. Look at the shoulder line here. Interesting design for the shoulder. We have it going low here in the front end, and then it swoops up over the rear axle, creating a muscle here going into the very corner of the taillight right there. We have a Hofmeister kink intact for the X5, which is very cool to see still in BMWs. We have the silver trim around the windows. Still want to have that be black. The only thing I don't really like in the side view, again, they need to slap these weird graphic features both in the front, the side as well, and in the rear. This is something that I would maybe just want to delete altogether, or have this just be a cut in the bodywork without this silver trim piece that goes here, because it feels like a piece of graphic that just does not feel like it suits the overall X5. It feels like it's not part of the rest of the design. But you can see the proportions here. A lot more sharp lines than we have in the Mercedes. We also have a clean looking tail end here with a proper bumper down low. And the wheel design, even though you can't really see them here because they're spinning, wheel design looks great on the X5 as well. Love this line that goes right here through the doors and into, then have a clear connection to this line right here in the rear end. Beautifully done by BMW, and look how stately and upright the front end is. It makes it feel super confident. This is what I want to see in BMWs, to just almost have a forward-leaning front end in with the kidneys and the headlights. Now, the rear ends here. By far, my favorite view for the GLE is definitely going to be this view right here. Even more so, even more of a rear view than this. Because if you look at this design and just how planted this thing is, and here you can also see that we can get the GLE with the blacked out graphics going all around the car, around the windows here, and it looks so much better. I actually think it looks great in black, in addition to these beautiful black wheels. Usually not a huge fan of black wheels, but in this case, everything else being blacked out, we have this silver rim around the outline of the wheel itself. It looks very, very cool and super sporty. It looks almost like an AMG. This is probably the AMG package here that we have for this specific GLE. But look at how planted it looks. It's so beefy in this area. We have this shoulder just bulging out here. I think Mercedes has taken over the throne of the most planted German car maker these days over BMW. I think the GLE just sits better than the X5. Further down low, we have a proper bumper here. Thankfully, we have this waterfall, typical German design, where you have the bodywork underneath the taillight here falling down and going in outwards, creating this bumper line that we have right here. We also have dual exhaust at the bottom, looking very cool. Maybe have these blacked out as well, I'm not sure, and also black out this piece right here. If you're gonna go black like this, you might as well do it all the way with these pieces as well on the top and in the bottom of the design. Looking at the X5 here, we got a refresh for 2024, I do believe. New taillights, but the outline for the taillights are completely the same as we had in the previous generation X5, even though these arrow-like daytime run lights here, or brake lights, are completely new. These LEDs in the middle. Still a beautiful looking view for the X5. You do have some silver pieces down here that intrudes into the bumper. Not sure about this piece down here. Dual exhaust on each side, and this looks to be the xDrive 60 here. So you have the more powerful engine here with the V8, I do believe. Look at the shoulder line here, beautifully done by BMW as well. We talked about this in the side view. So we still have this graphic here. I like this piece because this reminds me of the first generation X5 and the 4.6 and the 4.8 versions of that. That also has sort of this shelf down here at the bottom with this silver piece. And here you can see the wheel design clearer than in the side view because now it's standing still. And I love these designs. It just looks almost like an M design for the wheels. We don't really have the same waterfall design for underneath the taillight like we have in the Mercedes, but it still looks very good. You can see that we have some curvatures here, and this is what is missing these days in new models from BMW. Everything gets so static and it feels like it was designed straight in a 3D software and it didn't start with a hand sketch. However, this X5 still has this hand sketch feel to it, which I really like to see. You can see that we have this connection here again with this line going into the side. Now, last but not least, the interiors here. So up top, we do have the Mercedes GLE. At the bottom, we do have the X5. I am not a huge fan of either of these integrations of the screens here, but I have to lean towards Mercedes because at least we have some sort of framing for it and some radiuses here. It just feels a little softer, a little bit more welcoming than the BMW X5 that just has one static square on the dash here without any sort of integration in the overall interior. I do think Mercedes did it better here. I also like the layout of these four vents in the middle. It just looks clean, and thankfully, look at this. This is a huge deal for me to have the temperature controls, the AC controls, everything being still tactile in 2024, and that is a huge deal breaker for me if I'm gonna have to pick between two cars. You have the engine start stop button here. I would definitely go with the AMG steering wheel. This is not a steering wheel that I am a fan of at all with this design. I think it looks very strange to have all this plastic going in here, but overall the interior of the Mercedes just feels a little bit more welcoming than what it does in the BMW, in my opinion. You can see that we don't have any sort of buttons here like we have in the Mercedes. Instead, all the climate functions are located right here in the bottom of the infotainment screen. So you have to go in and mess around with the pixels if you want to switch up the fan speed or the temperature and whatever you want. You can't really quickly access them with some control panel down here. It's not a bad looking interior, the BMW. I like that we have this piece here, for example, with these arrows, and let's say an X5. The vents are beautifully designed too, but I still prefer the simplistic design that we have for the Mercedes. So if I were to pick one today, I have to keep in mind that we do have 120 horsepower less in the base GLE. So I would not go for the base on each of these. Actually, if I were to buy the X5, I would still be happy with the X40i, which has the 360 horsepower or something like that. That is more than enough for that type of package. But if I were to go GLE, probably not go with the 255 horsepower inline 4. It just feels a little underpowered. But just basing it on the designs, I would still go for the Mercedes GLE because to me, ever since it first came out, this generation of the GLE, every time I'm behind one at the rear light, I'm just mesmerized by how beefy and sumo squatty it looks like when you look at it from a straight rear view. And for that reason, and for the buttons in the interior, me personally, I'm gonna go with the Mercedes GLE.